In this video, I'll show you how I avoid mess on my watercolor paintings. Hi, I am Bianca and I am a watercolor artist. I create watercolor painting tutorials, art supplies reviews, and how you can earn money with your art. So stay with me until the end because this video will surely help you. Number 1. Paint from light to dark. Watercolors are transparent that you can still see the underlying colors even you layer them. It will be also helpful if you paint lightly on the first wash. Then, build up the colors as you paint. If you started dark, it will be difficult to correct and lift up the colors, especially if you use staining colors. Number 2. Paint the details last. I know it can be exciting to finish the painting, but details should be always last. You may ruin your painting as you paint when you try to paint the details without establishing the colors. Number 3. Paint wet on wet first. When you paint wet on wet, it is easy to lift up the colors and correct your mistakes, especially if you are painting on large areas. If you paint wet on dry, the paint can be difficult to take off or it can be permanent there. If you find this video helpful, tap the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and YouTube will let you know if I upload a new video. Okay, just to show you the project that I'm working on for a commission. Alright, so I'm actually painting on an easel. Okay, and whenever I paint, I actually put a paper on top. Okay, so I'm actually working on the left side here. So I put the paper on top here. And I also put the paper here as well. So whenever I paint, I will just move the paper around wherever the part I am painting. So I covered it. So I have my mixing palette here on my right, if you could see, and my towel, also my water. Since I am a right-handed, I put also my towel here so I can easily remove the excess water and paint from my brush. I have my palette here, okay, and my water. So to avoid mess on your project, especially if you are working on a commission project, okay, this is very helpful. So it is to avoid like dropping some paint on this area that might mess your painting. Okay, that's why I do this. Okay, what I also do is I wear these gloves. This is actually smudge proof gloves. Okay, so I am wearing this whenever I paint. Okay, because this will help also to not smudging your paint on your paper or move the paint around. Okay, just make sure that this is dry whenever you are painting, because you might still get some paint and you move around. So it will be helpful if I paint using this while covering it up. If you don't use a paper like this, you can also use paper towel or whatever. This is the sketch where I sketch my project. Okay, I am right-handed, so I always start painting from right to left. Okay, so however, in this case, actually, I moved this paint around. So I painted like this. Okay, so when I started this painting, I painted this like this. Okay, it's just I'm having a hard time painting here because the petal is upside down. So I need to move around my paper. Okay, so I paint from left to right most of the time. Okay, because if I paint from right to left and I'm painting on the left, and then I didn't know that this area that is still wet, what happens is that I tend to smudge the wet area here. So while I am painting, so what I do is I cover this up while I'm painting. Okay, I'm using a hot press paper. I do not tape it on all sides because I do not do wet on big areas. I use wet on wet only for small areas, and I paint from like petal for petal, or I can tend to move this around. Maybe you could do that as well, but tend to paint wet on wet with heavy washes, you need to tape down your paper, the entire thing. Maybe it will be helpful if you will be using a board to tape your paper down so you can move it around. Okay. For my case, I'm painting on an easel because painting with using an easel can help me not to hurt my nape and my back. Right. In any case, that when you are painting and there's like a drop of water or paint, whatever, as long as it's still wet, you can always wet it, clean it up with clean water, okay, and remove the paint. It's just difficult to lift up the color if the paint has already dried on your paper. Aside from that, it's also difficult to lift up the paint if you are using a staining color like Winsor Red or French Ultramarine. That is very staining, that even if you remove the paint on your paper, you will still see some colors. Okay, so it's just a tip. Since watercolor is activates with water, it's also erasable with water. For drawing, I use only 4H pencil, especially for my projects. Actually, but whatever project I'm doing, I use only 4H pencil because 4H pencil is very light, like this. Okay, as you can see, there are drawing here, okay, but it's not very visible on the camera, I think. Okay, it's not really dark, it's very light. Okay, so whenever I paint, I don't have to erase the pencil marks all the time. I just continue painting. All right, 4H pencil for me is the best pencil that I use for painting. If you are using HB or B pencils can actually smudge your pencil lines on your paper because they are very soft. HB is fine, however, it's still dark, so I use 4H pencil for my outlines. You may also use watercolor pencils. Okay, watercolor pencils like this, it can dissolve in water. All right, so unlike the regular pencils like this, when you use watercolor pencils like this and when you paint on top of it, or as you can see, pencil dissolves. Okay, I just do not use this whenever I paint something like a horizon line because I may not be able to see it. I use this rarely, very rare. I still use just ordinary pencils because this one still works for me better than water soluble pencils because I may not I might forget or I might not see the pencil lines and that will ruin my painting. So still use this. For some artists using this, they are enjoying to use this to not to have the pencil lines on their paper. But for me, as you can see, the pencil lines are not very visible on my painting, and I use 4H pencil. Even if I painted very lightly, like in this area, it's very light. And here, the pencil lines are not very visible that much. I hope that helps. Another tip that I can give you if you are starting on a project, whatever you're doing, okay, is start on the area of the project that is not very visible to the eyes, or a area of the painting that can be ignored. Okay, for me in this case, whenever I paint, because I paint from flower to flower, if you notice, I do not paint the entire thing first layer. I don't do that. Okay, what I do is I paint layer by layer, or petal by petal, flower by flower. That's what I do. What I do is I start all the time to the area that can be easily ignored, okay, or that is not the center of attraction of the viewer. For example, that would be here, like the center of the flower here, okay, here, also here, or it can be here, okay, the viewer do not pay attention that much to those areas. Okay, so whenever you are starting, especially if you did not paint for like a few days and you will go back to painting, it will be helpful to start painting on those small areas that the viewer do not draw their attention to. Okay, next is whenever I do a project, even on my sketchbook, I do not draw directly on the watercolor paper. What I do is I sketch them on a paper, and then I transfer the drawing to my paper. Okay, what I do is using a light pad. There you will need to tape your paper down on your light pad and then your watercolor paper on top of it. And then you can turn it on. The light will turn on from the back so you can see the lines from the top, even if you are using a thick paper. Okay, if you are not using a light pad, what you can do is to flip over and scribble the outlines here at the back. For this project, I did not use 4H pencil because 4H pencil is very light. You could use a student pencil. I use my son's pencil here, or HB pencil. You can scribble it and then you will put this on top of your watercolor paper. Make sure that you tape on this so that your paper won't move around, and then you can trace. If you like this video, I recommend to watch this next video, how to transfer your outline drawing to your watercolor paper neatly, and I'll see you on my next video.